Okay, great. Well, hey, we're four after, and there's a couple of people that will be joining. It looks like they'll be doing it late, so we'll have to make them feel awkward when they join late. That's just the punishment. That's just the natural consequence. So welcome everybody. Is anyone new on the call for the first time today? Like for the first time on this particular call, considering that we have quite a few of them. We'd love to welcome you. If so,
Yes, this is my first time listening.
to Josh. Oh,
Yes,
oh, very good. Yep. No, I was just having a little bit of a hard time hearing you, but yeah, say it again. This is your first time on the call, and
yeah,
welcome.
yeah. First time on the call. I'm just listening in and trying to understand the process and see how to get involved.
Nice, beautiful, beautiful. Well, it starts with you doing what you just did, which is great. So, hey, well, welcome to the community. Welcome to the Meshery development call. Just very briefly for you, and I know, well, and I'm going to pause for just a minute because there's another newcomer who could benefit from this just as soon as their audio is connected.
Hello,
Nice.
this is Saeed Hassan.
Oh, there's Taib. Good.
Yes,
And there's meat,
very good.
meat as well. I was it's a little bit unfortunate that the both of you guys just joined because I was just saying I was just talking about you. Now that you're here, I can't talk about you. So it's um
Do you want me to leave, maybe?
yep. Yep. Sorry. I some of the sarcasm doesn't come through the microphone very well, but so to to Josh, right? That's how you enunciate it. I think so. So to Josh, Meet, and Taib, good to have you guys. It's a tradition for people who join one of the calls for the first time, or the first time that you're on any of the calls, to do a quick introduction, so that way everybody can get to know you and you can get to know them as well. So to Josh was just saying hi and saying it's the first time for him on this particular call, that he's here kind of listening in and getting kind of like you do jump rope. You guys ever do like the dual jump rope, where one person's standing on one side, somebody's standing on the other side, and you're sort of standing there getting ready to jump in. You're kind of getting the flow. I feel like that's what to
Yeah,
Josh is doing. What to Josh is doing right now. He's sort of getting familiar, so he knows where to jump in. There's a lot that goes on in this meeting and across the other meetings. There's a lot of tech that um, all of all of the community is into. Um, Foremost, the tech revolves around service mesh, but that means that it includes Kubernetes and Docker and Rust and WebAssembly and Envoy and the list keeps going for a long time. And so it takes a lot of you for us to do meaningful things. And I'm very pleased to say you're all doing a lot of meaningful things. Actually, one of the projects is, well, in about 2 weeks should head into the CNCF. And so that'll be a nice milestone for anyone who's helped with service mesh performance, SMP. I'll put a link in here for those who haven't seen it, but I digress. Taib, do you want to take a second just to introduce and say hi to everybody?
yeah, for sure. So my name is Saeed Hassan, and I'm a CS undergraduate. In my senior year, I'm from Hyderabad, India, and I've been doing open source for about a year now. And most of my contributions are on Facebook's Jest, which is a testing framework for JavaScript. And my expertise lies in JavaScript, React, and a little bit of Python as well. But it's my first time, joining this meeting, so I thought I'd see what's going on and just say hi.
Nice, very nice. That's great.
Okay.
Yeah, there's I don't know if I mentioned React or which I didn't, but there's a couple of different React projects that are going on, maybe three depends on how you count them. So one of them is one of the websites is done in Gatsby, which is React based, but is for a specific purpose. It's another one, the Meshery UI itself, done in React. It's done on Next.js. And then there's another project called MeshMap, and it's done in React, but it heavily uses Cytoscape.js, which is a pretty neat project. So, so Taib, welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah. Meet, do you want to say hi and introduce? Oh no, we lost him. It was either the bad jokes or a bad connection. I'm not sure. But to Josh, thanks for saying hi earlier. We'll have to catch up in chat in Slack. You have to get introduced around as well. Be good. All right. Well, hey, a couple of items. If you don't have your name here on the list, please slap it down. After you've been here for a week or so, if you just put your first name on the list, then it's a fair warning right now that you may find that one of us makes up a last name for you. And so anyway, put your full name down if you would. Okay, a couple quick items that I mentioned to folks earlier on the call, and that is that there's a number of meetings that go on. There's a convenient reference to find those meetings and the calendar for them and the meeting minutes and et cetera, the YouTube playlists. It's meet.layer5.io. If you go there, you'll find a calendar of the meetings that go on. Some of them are run in the CNCF. Some of them are run here. It's kind of hard to tell the difference after a while. You can subscribe to the calendar there. Then you can also have there's a quick reference of what meetings are happening when and what the topics are, where the meeting minutes are, how to connect. If you want to watch the recordings, they generally go up fairly quickly. The other thing I'd mentioned was Service Mesh Performance, SMP. This is the project I was mentioning that will be put up for consideration inside of the CNCF in a couple of weeks. And it's sort of long been, and so I will let everyone go read about what that project is and get involved in it if you want to. It's a good time to get involved in a project just before it lands in the CNCF. It's long been stated that that's the goal for Meshery as well. It's probably is headed toward CNCF. So with that, I'll be quiet and let Navendu talk about Meshery CTO.
Yeah, thanks. I'll just share my screen. So hi guys. So we have some couple of updates on documentation in Meshery CTL. So we have both contributing facing documents as well as user facing documents. So we have added a new Meshery CTL command matrix, which is like a contributor facing docs, which will be a central repo for all the Meshery CTL commands and to track its progress. So this is that doc. Yeah, you can check this out in the link provided in the meeting minutes. So yeah, this is a command reference and tracker doc that is its aim is to like track the implementation of each of the Meshery CTL commands and to keep a track of what commands have been implemented and also some documentation on the commands as well. So yeah, this will be the source of ground truth for the Meshery CTL commands from now on. So everything related to Meshery CTL commands will be tracked in this doc. we have some couple of unfilled columns right now, like the Windows support. So we need some volunteers who will test Meshery SQL commands on Windows devices and like see if everything is working. So that is one contributor facing doc, and next we are adding a new, like we are reorganizing this Meshery CTL command reference, which is in the Meshery docs. Uh, so this is a user-facing doc, which basically has all the Meshery CTL commands and its function and its usage. But the current implementation is not intuitive, and it uh, also misses some commands. Like for example, we have a start command here, and we again have a start command with a reset flag here. So uh, this might be like a little bit confusing for the user. So we have set up a proposal to uh, change this doc to something similar to the command metrics, where we will have the command flag function and usage. So like for example, in the system command, we have a global flag context. So and it has all these completion, start, stop, and all these sub commands. And say for the start command, we have three flags. So organizing like this would be a bit more intuitive for the user, and it will make their life a lot easier. And we are also adding individual logs for each of the commands. So a command like system start will have an individual log, which will be linked in this table over here. So the plan is to first we reorganize this table and make it more intuitive, and then we will add individual logs for each of the commands mentioned here, and probably add some use cases and examples from a user's perspective, and where they should use these commands, and it will be linked to each of the commands in this table. And yeah, we will be adding some new issues around this. So if you are interested in to contributing to these talks, then feel free to ping me on Slack, and I will try to assign some issues to you. Yeah. Any questions?
Well, I have a question. Can I?
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you hear me, right?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. You said the documentation must be updated with this spreadsheet, right? My question is, do we need to refactor the doc page using the table, or create separate pages using the commands, like a page for Meshery CTL, a page for separate command like that?
Yeah, actually both. We will have first we will have a doc, like a page similar to this one, like a table structure where we have all the commands, like we have in this spreadsheet. It will have the command flag function usage. Yeah, only till usage we'll have command flag function and usage. So we will have a table structure like this, and also we will have an individual doc page for each of the commands. So it's kind of good. Now we will start with implementing the table structure using this Excel sheet, and then we will gradually add documentation for each command.
All right, got it. Thanks.
So
Yeah.
yep, keep going, Aditya.
Any other comments
You say you mentioned one issue, right? What is that roadmap.md? Could you brief about it?
Oh,
You started one
yeah,
issue, right?
yeah, like
Yeah, that one.
Meshery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, so
what's that
like
actually?
we have a high level, it's a, like a high level roadmap for like what Meshery should look like and Meshery CTL should look like in the upcoming version. We are at version 0.5 right now. So what should Meshery
Okay.
look like in 0.60%? Yeah, that's basically the roadmap.
Okay, that's great.
Nice. Okay. Let me add maybe a little more flavor to what Navendi was saying to make sure that this all settles in for everyone. Everyone understands how they can participate, where they can jump in. So some of you that have been here for a while, this might be a little bit of a repeat, but I'll try to make it short. And that is that so Navendu has been in the community for some time. He's been focused. He's done a few things, but a lot of it's been focused toward Meshery CTL, and there are any number of components here for people to and aspects of components for people to um, own or have a significant influence on. And Nivendu um, ended up spending a lot of time toward Meshery CTL. And so he's on a path very shortly to becoming a maintainer of Meshery CTL. As such, he's been working on a little bit of high level roadmap for it. He's been um, more or less what he's presenting today is a lot better organization around that client. So Meshery as a system has a number of components. The core server has two clients. It has a command line client and a UI client. They both use the same Meshery server APIs to interact with Meshery. So, and they are both user experiences. I think a lot of times people think about a web-based user interface as like that's where the UX happens. That's where the user experience is. Yes, that's true. Also, there's a CLI client. It's a client just like the UI. It also has a user experience. It's also very important. If you think about Docker as a CLI and making containerized things easy, that's the Docker user experience, or was for many years. So Meshery CTL, same thing, very important in terms of the user experience, very important in terms of exposing all of the capabilities of Meshery itself into a CLI, into a terminal. A lot of you have been putting in work into it, and there's some, along the way we've missed a few times on documenting a command or two or a flag or two, or the documentation itself, like Navindu was pointing out, is not the most legible or could be reorganized a little bit to be more legible. So Navindu was presenting a plan going forward to take, and he's got links here, was presenting a plan to restructure the documentation such that not only is there a central reference, a central command reference, but also that there is an individual page in the documentation, one page for each command that would really explain the behavior of the command, give a couple of usage examples. It doesn't have to be very long, could be a paragraph on the page, but it at least goes a little bit more in depth than just a simple statement of fact that there is such a command with such a flag, and here's an example usage. It should take it just a little bit further. And so there's a collection of contributors, about 6 or 7 or more, that have been also fairly focused on Meshery CTL. And some of you are on the call right now. Actually, a few of you are, which is great. Anirudh has been here for quite some time, helping bring forth a new command that's really changed the way Meshery CTL works broadly. That command is called context. And we've just, it had been so long in need of Meshery CTL system context. I won't explain it. I'll let Anirudh and Navindu and Hussein and all the others that have worked on it explain it. But given that the feature set just continues to grow and that the contributors continue to grow, that Navindu's taken a crack at organizing us. And you just, thank God. And so one of the places that he was pouring a lot of effort into is this spreadsheet. And it hopefully just through visual color coding sort of attracts your attention to certain areas of need. And there's a lot of area in need in terms of like creating an individual page for each command, a documentation page, but it's not all about documentation. There's much more to do in terms of coding than there is documentation. There's just a little bit of catch up on a few docs. Jumping into docs, a great way to get familiar with the community, to get the contributor flow kind of comfortable with, to get some quick wins, get a bunch of commits under your belt. Each component that we have here, and Abhishek, like, I don't know if you have the count. There's like 45 something repositories. Meshery has, I don't know, 30 components or something. It's the largest project. There's a number of projects, but each of those, the reason I'm saying that is because each of those components needs not only one maintainer, but a couple of maintainers. So I guess the gauntlet that I'm laying down is that there's a number of maintainership roles that are in need of being filled, and they can't be handed out willy-nilly, or they have to be, one way of thinking of it is either they have to be earned. That's one way of thinking of it, but that's really not, they have to be assigned to people who are performing that role. And then it's not about earning it. It's just about doing the role and then being recognized in that role. So in Navindu, hopefully I'm not repeating too much of what you'd said. I'll explain a couple of items here about this Windows support. So Meshery itself is intended to, to allow you, okay. So Meshery itself will deploy either inside of a Docker host. So if that host is running Docker, you can deploy Meshery as a set of containers. Great. That could be a Windows operating system, could be Linux or Mac. Meshery will also deploy inside of Kubernetes, which Kubernetes could be running on any of those OSs as well. As a client, Meshery CTL could be downloaded and executed from any of those 3 OSs or flavors of those OSs. For the most part, a lot of the contributors have verified that new features function, these commands function well on Mac and Linux, and kind of lean into file path references that have forward slashes or backslashes, aiming one way or the next, or make certain assumptions. Some of the commands have been cleaned up. Husseina in particular has cleaned up a number of commands to make them multi-OS or make them compatible with all OSs. But largely there's the need to go verify that a number of these work properly on Windows. That's a big area. So outside of that, I won't repeat the rest of what Navindu had said. He was outlining a better contributor process for individual design specs. He was outlining the fact that there's a central document, a central design specification that tracks all of the commands. And there's a new design spec to use to do that. So anyway, it's a lot to kind of take in one swallow. But overwhelm Navindu with questions now or in the Slack or jump on a call with him. But there's a lot to be done. This high-level roadmap highlights some of that, some new commands to create. As service mesh performance this project goes into the CNCF, the way that Meshery interacts with that specification is through this command perf, Meshery CTL perf. No, it has not been used extremely heavily, and I suspect it will get used more and more as SMP picks up. So a lot to do there. So thanks for getting us organized in the venue. This is good. There's a Meshery CTL channel as well in Slack that's kind of dedicated to these discussions. So last thing I'll say on Meshery CTL is that it's often been the place where people who are either contributors who are either new to Golang or who are just looking to make a mark on Meshery initially, a lot of times contributors will get started there because the programming is a little more functional, a little more procedural, because you're sort of dealing with just, hey, what does this particular command do? So, and so the code base is relatively smaller as well. So it's a good place to get started. Before we switch topics, last comments or questions? Nice. All right, good. Well, you know who to disturb if you do have comments or questions. I'm going to move the compatibility matrix down a little bit just because I've been talking a lot. Utkarsh, if you are here, I think we heard from you last week about a whole new feature, the performance profiles. And you did a demonstration of what was a pretty slick user experience. And you've been working on refactoring that. Do you want to take people through those changes?
Yeah, sure. Well, it's not complete, but yeah.
So while Utkarsh is bringing this up, he's probably sick of introducing the topic, so I'll do it for him, which is we're just talking about performance. So one of the things that Meshery does as a service mesh manager is it helps people, I'm trying to think of a word other than manage. It helps people characterize the performance of their service mesh, the performance of the workloads running on top of the mesh, helps them gauge how much overhead is involved, and helps them squeeze as much out, tune the mesh, tune their workloads. So people will use Meshery to run performance tests, generate load, and analyze how quickly the mesh responds. People will adjust and configure their service mesh, run the tests again, and it has become kind of bothersome over. And actually, you can see the total number of tests that people have run. If you go to meshery.io, you'll see a total number of tests run, and that's in it's a real-time ticker. So if you go run one, you'll see it update. As people have run those, it's become bothersome as a user experience where someone will go in, they'll click to generate to run a performance test, and they'll enter in particular parameters like generate load against this endpoint for this long, this aggressively, and pass along these HTTP headers, or they'll do all that configuration. They'll run the test, and if they want to rerun the test, they've got to go type it all back in. So Utkarsh and Nikhil, who I don't think is here, and some other contributors that aren't on the call have worked on performance test profiles. So that's what Utkarsh is going to talk about.
Yeah, so the interface has changed quite a bit since I last demoed it. Now we have two different, actually this isn't like, it's still work in progress. I'm not sure what thing is going to crash, but so now we have two different views. So this is a grid view where you can actually, I know this is the kind of bug that the text gets a bit smudgy when I'm flipping the card around, and that's something I fix soon, I hope. You click on it, you can see the details of the performance profiles. That is the endpoints, the load generators. These are plurals because performance profiles actually, by design, are supposed to support more than one endpoints, more than one load generators. So right now we have only one and one load generator test and duration, and last when you updated the profile. You can click on it, and now it will grow. It will show you a table where this is basically all of the performance test results, which were performance tests which were run under this particular profile. You can click on details, and you would get the graph that was generated through that test, and you can click that again, and this will just go away. This is I think working. I hope, yeah. You can click the edit form to bring up this form where you can either run the test again, or you can make changes and update the profile. This is function, but like completely function. You can delete the profile and and this is the second view. This is similar to how I demoed it last week, except now you have like you get these drop downs. In these drop downs, you have missed tables. First table was performance profiles table. Second one is the same table. It's just that it's being presented differently. And now you get performance test results, which were run under this profile in the same graph that you were getting shown in that particular view. These two views are like, right now supported, and then this is yeah, this is basically to edit the form, or yeah, to edit the form. Now another page that is still, like this is still under work. Here you will get right now this right portion is completely functional. That is, if I would have added Grafana, Prometheus and Grafana charts. So basically metrics, not exactly Grafana. I mean, right now only Grafana Prometheus, but in general metrics. If I would have added it in settings, I would get those charts in here. In the left, you would get a summary of all of the tests that you have run or number of profiles that you have total created. It's like right now it's showing like in a really ugly manner that I have total 2 profiles. That's true, but UI is something to be worked on. Other details would also be added in here. That is what the like when the last tests were performed, along with the dates. So this portion is still in progress. One thing that I mean, don't know if someone's noticed that, okay, where do I create profile from? Yeah, there is no button for creating profile right now because again, this is, I was just working on it. But it would be soon added here also. That is where you are, like in these views, you would have a button that, okay, you can create a new profile, or you would also get a button in here that is like just below the summary or maybe above the summary. Or you would have the capability to access the same form that you were accessing here, just basically it won't be triple for you. You will be able to fill it for yourself. So this is I actually presented what is the current state as well as what I am planning to, at least we are planning to like do it in future, not in future, maybe in a day or two. So any feedbacks on this or questions or something?
I have one question. Like, the card, if you flip the card, you get the details, right?
Yeah.
So why not have it in the same view? Like, why do we have? Because the front view looked so plain. That's the reason I'm asking.
Yeah, actually, it's looking plain. One of the like one thing that is missing from here, which would be added once we have maybe a workflow engine, and that is adding a button for schedules. But yeah, definitely this is a bit plain. Oh, I mean, on the back side there are more details. We can put it in front, but I'm not sure. I think we can put it in front. But
Okay, so if we have planned for more components in the front view, then yeah, ideally a flip is good. Like it looks very good. So, uh, like that's an advantage. Basically, it's good to have a backflip. It's just that the front one looked very plain. That's the reason I was asking.
uh,
Yeah, that's about my question. Like basically, rest of it looks really fantastic.
So yeah, we can add it, but either it will get too crowded. I'm not sure. Yeah,
Utkarsh, did you already demo, or did you say it wasn't quite ready yet? The switch between grid view or card view and table view?
yeah. Actually, I did. I mean, this is a grid view. Now you can click on the switch to switch
Okay.
to the table view.
Got it.
These are the profiles, performance profiles, and in here you can click this drop, like expand row thing, and now you get all of the tests that will run under this. So nested tables, and this isn't rows anymore. Instead, you get a graph as an
Got it. Got it. Got it. And one of the questions in the chat was whether or not the card flip is that strictly CSS, or is there some JavaScript happening as well?
okay. This is a mixture of, so the animation is the CSS, but it selects element based on data attributes, and those data attributes are added by JavaScript. I have the code in case someone's interested, or it will get pushed really soon, at least in my branch.
Oh, okay. If people want to check it out, you were saying that you've
Basically, I was saying that I can either show it right now, or eventually it would actually get pushed to at least my branch and then maybe in master.
good deal. One thing to highlight, I don't know if for most of the folks on the call, they've got long familiarity with the navigate, or with the way that the menu items in the left-hand side menu, the performance. So currently, if you're using Meshery, there's a performance menu item, and then there's a results menu item. And so I figured I'd point that out. I don't know if you want to talk about the thoughts that
Okay, this thing. So instead of results, now we have profiles because, so yeah, if someone has, I mean, everyone has older version of Meshery, so you would see here instead of profiles, you would see results. But now, as all of the performance test results are part of profiles, that is, all of the tests that you run would be definitely in a profile. Either you create, like either you name it or we will name it for you, but definitely they would be a part of profiles. So instead of results, we now show profiles, and you get this view, multi-view. One of them is a grid view, and one of them is a table view. You get to the profiles, and then you can actually click on your profile that they created or we created, and then you can expand and see the same old results that you used to. The interface has quite a bit changed. So the only thing, basically, the only thing in results table that's changed is that instead of getting your graph, yeah, basically getting your graph in a expandable room, you get it as model. So that actually we were actually trying to avoid a lot of nesting of the tables. So that is why now you get your graph as a model. So that's a change. That is why the name was changed from results to profiles, because they are part of profiles now.
makes sense. And then if you click on performance, is there? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yep.
this part is completely like work in progress.
Cool. Yep. And this is all right. So great. So this becomes this particular view. Like today, if you use Meshery and you click on performance, it will show you a form to fill in to run a performance test. Tomorrow, or when these changes land, when you click on the performance menu item, it'll be a little bit more of a dashboard telling you about how many profiles you have, how many tests you've run, maybe some statistics about some deviations from for certain profiles, whether or not they're trending positively, like faster or maybe more slowly. One of the reasons why people will run a performance test is to initially baseline how their environment, how well they're running their service mesh, and that shifts over time. They release new versions of their apps onto the mesh. Maybe things get slower, maybe things get faster. they upgrade to new versions of that service mesh. They change the configuration of the service mesh. They add new nodes to their cluster. That all kinds of things change. So they want to. It's an ongoing process, and they want to. Not only they want to track against themselves. How well are they performing? Are they trending positively or negatively based on relative to themselves? They also want to do it relative to others. So, and that's something that we facilitate. That's why we keep track of the total number of performance tests that have been run on Meshery.io, because those statistics can be sent in anonymously, and we're engaged with a couple of universities about studying those. Which reminds me, we're meeting with NYU tomorrow. It's a good reminder. So this is great. Hey, one small item of feedback, Utkarsh, is if you go back to the profiles page, one thing that will help us feel less nested is if the paper on the background, if we remove that paper, we'll have the view switchers sort of sitting on the background, whatever sitting back there. But then as you go to look at, drill into profile A, and it, or rather, yeah. Oh, by the way, that's awesome. I've yet to see someone actually do anyway, if you nav away right now, oh man, that's fantastic. Okay, good. And I know you're working toward move. Okay, good. If you, this. So this is what I'm saying is that, like, hey, if we get rid of that background paper, we won't feel like we're 3 layers deep. We'll only feel like we're 2 layers deep, which won't be as many nests happening.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm getting excited. Oh, this is cool. So you're checking this in tonight, right? About 10 minutes from now, you'll be wrapped up. We'll be good. All right. So for those of you, okay, good. Utkarsh knows sarcasm when he hears it. So the Abhishek, who's just speaking, is working, and all of the rest of you have been working toward getting this next release out, the v0.5 release. And it's taken a painfully long time to get out, like the last 5%, the last little half mile of it. And that's because there are like 5 to 6 new major architectural components in this release. But it sounds like you guys have tied it off. We're basically either ready, like we're ready for that release. This stuff that, if that's the case, what you're showing here, Utkarsh, is probably then ends up landing in the .06 release, which is just fine, which is great. Any other, okay, I guess given the time, if anyone does have other feedback for Utkarsh or just kind of questions about the thought process, 1, see Utkarsh. 2, there's a link to the Figma project that is being used for Meshery UI design. So you're all welcome to access that. If you can't, then just message in Slack in general, and somebody will open that up. With that, we should tie off the rest of today's topics. Utkarsh, this is a lot improved since just this last week. It's nice. It's good. It's good. All right. Next up was, who's next? Or what else do we have? Okay. There's a note about compatibility matrix. This really isn't that important. Let me not preempt Pranav. Pranav, do you want to?
Hello. Yeah, just a second. Let me just share my screen. Hopefully my internet doesn't conk off this time.
Excuses.
Yeah. Is it visible?
There it is.
Okay, yeah, please. So Right. I think the best way to start off talking about Image Hub is to show exactly what it is. So basically, what you do is you go through Meshery, you install your service mesh. In this case, I'm running Istio, and you'll see this pane called sample applications. So one of them would be Image Hub. So Image Hub is basically a demonstration of a particular capability of using WASM filters to control traffic. So you'd be greeted by this page once you deployed it and have it successfully up and running. And the normal thing is okay, so the point of this is basically this is just a central repository like Docker Hub, but this is a repository, mirroring it. And if you click this, you can sort of, pull an image. And how you would go about doing that is you would sign up, create your account, then it would take you to login, then you would sign in, and you would be greeted here. And so one of the important things is that you have this plan field over here. You have enterprise, team, and personal. So personal is limited to 10 pulls. Team is limited to, I think, 100. Enterprise is 1,000. So that's just arbitrary numbers just for the sake of the demo. And essentially, right now this is quite broken, and I'll show you in a bit why. But essentially, you can only hit this pull request about 10 times if you are signed up with the personal thing. Once it exceeds 10, a message will show up saying, hey, you've exceeded it. Do you want to upgrade your plan? And then you'll be prompted to this page, and then it'll ask you for your credit card details. Please do enter it. I'm going to be coding that in quite soon. That was a little joke. Anyway, so right. Normally, this sign up, this login, and especially the feature of counting the number of times someone's hit pull and counting the number of requests that have come in, that would be handled on the application side. So the point of Image Hub, what it demonstrates, this WASM filter I mentioned before, is that it sits between. Okay, so I think this is the best time to pull up this architecture. So this is taking the console service mesh, and you can see that when you deploy console, you have this thing called proxy sidecar. Essentially, what it does is that whenever you have a pod, right, the sidecar sits here intercepting all your traffic, and you can do all sorts of cool things. But the one we are after is that Envoy specifically has the capability of having a filter put inside it. So I'll just quickly show you what this filter, how it exactly works. So traditionally in this container service foo, right, you would be handling, you would have coded in the language, sorry, the feature of counting the number of requests and checking whether it's valid or invalid depending on the plan the user has subscribed to. Now, the cool part about the filter is you can literally intercept the HTTP packets. And okay, let me just show how that would work. Currently, I've just deployed it. And now what you would want to do is after you deployed your sample app, you would click Envoy filter for Image Hub. So as I mentioned previously, this is Envoy, and this is the filter that we insert in. So through calls happening in the background, basically you have your WASM filter inserted. So the content of your WASM filter would look something like this. So it looks quite daunting and complicated, but I guess once you understand it, neat. So you would be able to, easily access stuff. So the core logic comes over here, where you have your authorization header. So when you click on pull over here, essentially what happens is there is a authorization header. So it's just a JWT token saying, hey, this is the user requesting it. This is the plan that the user has. So that token is sent over, and it is intercepted by this what do you say, filter, and then the filter again is coded in Rust and then compiled to Wasm. So it basically looks for that authorization header, extracts it, and it takes it in and it splits it up into the username and the plan the user has. And essentially what I'm doing is over here just comparing whether the what do you say, the pull request is within allowable limits, and if the plan exists, and this is just basic checking. Over here I'm updating saying that okay fine, so if this guy pulls, right, I need to update what do you say, the time, because you have 10 pulls per minute. So I'm handling the time updation here as well as handling the count. So we're incrementing the count each time within the filter itself, saving it as the object. Going back here, we see, okay, fine, has this guy crossed the limit or not? And then it gives a limiter exceeded. This ideally should be giving that message. And that's the working of the filter. So instead of coding it all into this application, you've now shifted it and you're handling it on to the handling that responsibility after the service mesh. So what are the benefits of doing that? Basically it makes your application coding way simpler. You don't need to sit and consider that aspect as well. And in a more complicated application, you would have what do you say, many more types of filters. So right now I've only spoken about rate limiting, right? You could have so many more types of rules, and just to show that it's actually the filter that's intercepting, I'm just going to pull up this inspect thing. And so each time I click pull, you can see that you get powered by, okay, that's also not that great. Right, so basically it's Istio Envoy that's intercepting it, and it's handling this verification part. So it's just shifting the responsibility onto the service mesh. That's essentially what this entire application is about. That's essentially what this demo is about. And I think that's pretty much it. Coming to where I am, proxy on the library and how Envoy works, it's quite finicky to say the least. And currently, like I alluded to before, I'm trying to add on many more types of filters. So I'm generally restructuring this entire project. Earlier, it was just hard coded. So you see these paths, right, where you can see auth, pull, sign up, upgrade. So these were basically hard coded for the app. And what I'm trying to do is, no matter what app you have, what app you deploy, you will be able to come into what do you say, Meshery UI. You'll hopefully have another card or something here saying, configure JSON, and you can then add your path. Let me just show that JSON object that will make life easier, hopefully. Where is it? Give me a second. No, no. Right. Okay, cool. So you have this JSON. So you'll have the name of the path, say, saying something like pull. You'll have the rule type saying rate limiter, and then you can, customize your plan names. You can customize your limits for each plan, and all of that would be hopefully in the future done as a card over here. So you just enter. It's just a form you fill. Click hit, and it'll deploy the filter automatically. So that's the vision for now. And generally all the work I'm doing is restructuring stuff, add of those paths and the plan names, and currently it's broken. So it's a work in progress. That's about it. I'm sorry for leaving 2 minutes for you, Lee, to finish your topic.
No, people have to listen to me enough. It's shoot, I get sick of listening to me. So this is good. Comments, questions, thoughts about what Pranav is showing. There's kind of a lot of pieces to it.
Just give me a second. Right. So one of the important things that I was mentioning is that this version number is hard coded. So, okay, this is basically something that comes in, in the middle. So when you hit this, where is, okay, that button suddenly, yeah. So when you hit this Envoy filter for image hub, so when you apply this configuration in the background, essentially it's these scripts, this one, the filter and the patch.json that's triggered. And one of the things is this is what you tell, what do you say, Istio, saying, hey, listen, I have this filter, I want you to apply it. So this is basically an interface, I guess, Istio provides. I need to look into it if other service meshes as well provide something like this, or if, like, is this portable? Probably not. So as you can see here, the proxy version for Istio is hard-coded. Ideally, this is going to be something that we don't want, because if you mess up the version number, it just won't load up. So this has to be configured manually. And you can see this long string, which is base64. That's nothing but this filter.json sort of, squished into base64 and just passed. So the thing is, how WASM works, how this filter is run, is that there is a virtual machine specifically created for running these WASM filters. So this it's not created by Envoy. It's created by it's there. It exists. So the way that works is that it allows very few interfaces and very few things. So ideally, I would like to just directly, drop in this. I'm so sorry. Yeah, I would ideally like to just drop in this JSON file directly into the virtual machine, but for some reason they don't allow it, and they're working on features. And even this filter feature is quite in alpha. They've just created a SIG committee for working on this like a few days ago, and it's just a huge work in progress. And so working with the Jank, as of now, a solution would be that convert it to base64 in the front end itself, and then we need to generate. So I'm not really going to get into that. That's another huge story. So there's quite a bit of work left to do. I'll just
Yeah. Hmm. It's a really exciting area. There's a lot that people used to consider. Well, people used to talk about, or I used to talk about, the magic sprinkles inside of a service mesh. And that was really in reference to the fact that a service mesh would, many of them, not all of them, would automatically sidecar a proxy next to your application container. And that the notion that Kubernetes in particular could do such a thing was kind of felt like little leprechauns inside of Kubernetes doing, magic things. Now that that's well understood, sort of, I think this is the next area for magic sprinkles to be happening, that just are happening in the system and people don't, you can't see it. It's transparent. Part of what the goal that Pranav was articulating here is to expose configuration of these filters, so that a product owner or an operator or a developer can go in and manipulate which filter to load, maybe when to load it. Maybe it's not always appropriate to have loaded, and then to configure the behavior of the filter or the filters, as Pranav was recently investigating, sort of chaining filters. Wow, there's a lot of power in there. Exposing that through a management plane like Meshery is really exciting. To the extent that there's a number of use cases that Pranav was alluding to, some of which he articulated, others of which are like facilitating traffic mirroring or traffic capturing, quite powerful. To be able to maybe auto configure or automatically suggest what a configuration should be. So to the extent that there's a generic and powerful filter that's capable of manipulating packets, well, to the extent that it needs configured, it can look at the requests that are coming through, identify endpoints, or identify where those requests are being directed to, and just start to catalog what those endpoints are, such that when someone opens up Meshery's UI, that management plane's UI, they go to configure the filter. Well, there can be a pre-populated list of potential endpoints that they're looking to filter on, because traffic has already been directed at those endpoints. And so there's a lot. If Image Hub as a sample app sounds very familiar, like Pranav was describing, sounds very much like Docker Hub. It is. It's a ripoff of Docker Hub intentionally as a sample app. There was a contributor here previously, Kanishkar, who had helped in the creation of Image Hub. He ended up demoing it at this last DockerCon. Speaking of, there's another DockerCon coming up, so maybe we should do something. Now, not all 75,000 of the attendees went to that talk, but there were quite a few. In the time that demo was given, that talk was given, Docker Hub changed their policies to begin to do rate limiting of how many times someone can pull down an image. And whether or not you can pull it in a certain amount of time is based on whether or not you're a paying subscriber or not. So it's really pretty coincidental that this same sample app was exactly what that team needed to do. And so Pranav, that reminds me, that team is waiting for us to talk to them. They're interested in what's happening here. So with that, we're 6 minutes over. Some of the folks have had to drop based on needing to get to other meetings. So very nice to see a few new faces today. So I don't need to tell a couple of you to be aggressive about getting engaged, because you already are, which is great. Do it, be aggressive. If I'm not responsive, that's just because I'm on another call or doing something else. It's not because I don't want you to be engaged. So nice. With that, hey, we'll conclude today. What we've got, the community meeting on Friday is probably our next get together. So, oh, no. I'm sorry. There's the newcomers meeting tomorrow. And then there's also the continuous integration working group tomorrow as well. Yeah, there's a couple of them tomorrow and then Friday. So good to see you all. Catch you at the next one. Thank you, Pranav, for that. Thank you, Karsh. Nivendu, I guess it was fine.
Bye, guys.
Okay, bye, guys. Bye, all.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bye, people.